He knew a romantic relationship between them could never happen. If it did, he concluded they would have to stop seeing each other entirely. Meanwhile, Jong Ehan anxiously stared at her computer, waiting for her college admission results. The thought of failing and facing her guardians, especially Chio, made her feel sick to her stomach. She also felt she couldn't face her late mother and brother. A memory surfaced of the tragic accident 11 years ago, when a bus skidded on the snow. At just 9 years old, she was the only one left. Shaking off the dark memories, Jong Ehan reminded herself that the Han Chio family was the reason she'd made it this far. She had to believe it would work out. Taking a shaky breath, she clicked the mouse. Her eyes went wide as she saw the word, accepted. She actually got in. Jumping with joy, she sprinted next door and burst in, announcing her incredible news. Her guardians were ecstatic, with Chio's father getting misty-eyed with pride. Amid the celebration, Ehan felt their genuine happiness, but soon realized someone was missing. She wondered where Chio was. Suddenly, a voice from behind asked if she was looking for him. It was Chio. He surprised Ehan with a party popper, showering her in confetti. With a smug grin, he congratulated her, flicking her forehead and teasing that she was his junior now. The moment made Ehan recall the past. 11 years ago, after the tragic accident, a young Chio had found her sobbing, convinced she was all alone. He tearfully promised to stay by her side forever, vowing to love her even more than her parents had. And from that day forward, he treated her like a real little sister. Thanks to Chio and his family, Ehan's world had found its balance again. Back in the present, his parents usher her inside to a massive celebration feast, having cooked all her favorite dishes. They knew she would pass. Chio's dad even jokes that his own son only got a card when he was accepted. Not missing a beat, Chio smugly claims Ehan should thank him, since she passed because of his guidance. She thinks he isn't totally wrong. He was a genius who got into the university as the top student. But she still wonders why he enlisted right after. Ehan recalled the reason she'd studied so hard. It was Chio, who, before his discharge, insisted she apply to his department so they could attend university together. Back at the dinner table, his parents gently scolded her for being so formal, reminding her she was their youngest daughter. Touched by their warmth, Ehan dug into the feast, vowing to repay them one day. But when she asked about home renovations, the mood turned serious. Chio's father took her hand, softly explaining that even if they were apart, she would always be their family. Ehan warmly told Chio's parents she'd always thought of them as her own. But their reply was a total shock. They apologized and then dropped a bombshell. They were moving to Busan the next day to care for his sick grandmother. Reeling from the news, Ehan went to Chio's room and saw it was already half-packed. She nervously asked if he was returning to school with her. He just gave a vague answer, acting like it was no big deal. Crushed, Ehan realized he'd never been serious about them going to college together. Heartbroken, Ehan believed her desire to stay together was just a selfish hope. Suddenly, Chio grabbed her chair, demanding she say what was on her mind. She tried to deflect, but he pressed her, asking if she was just upset that he was leaving. Then, he dropped a bombshell question. Did she want to live with him or something? Ehan froze, totally speechless. He told her to be honest, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. She knew that he understood she could never be selfish. Forcing a smile, she weakly replied they weren't a real family anyway. Chio's fingers tapped impatiently as he agreed with her. Since they weren't a real family, it was a dumb question. As he placed a hand on her head, Ehan frantically tried to take back her words, but he was already walking away. He turned back for a moment, admitting he did want to live with her, but it wouldn't change anything. The words triggered a flood of memories for Ehan. She remembered the crushing loneliness after her family died, the cold, empty house. To her, being apart meant being alone, not family. Snapping back to the present, she grabbed his shirt, desperate to explain what she really meant. Taking a huge risk, Ehan finally confessed she wanted them to live together. The second the words were out, her fear vanished. Instead of rejecting her, Chio gently cupped her cheek, praising her for finally asking for what she wanted. He told her not to be afraid to be selfish sometimes, then playfully teased her for stressing people out. With a mysterious smile, he said her request left him no choice. He walked away, leaving a stunned Ehan hanging by telling her she'd find out what he meant tomorrow. The next morning, Ehan found a moving truck outside and Chio's parents ready to leave. His mom explained that Chio had told them everything, happily confirming Ehan was living with him now. They were thrilled she was taking their rascal son off their hands. Completely baffled, Ehan frantically asked Chio what was going on. He acted surprised by her shock, coolly reminding her that she was the one who said she wanted to live with him. With a smug smile, he leaned in, saying he was now counting on her, Jong Ehan. Ihan always thought of home as more than just four walls. It was supposed to be a place filled with warmth and family, something she lost long ago. Because of that, she had forgotten what it was truly like. Snapping back to reality, she sees Chio standing before her with a bag slung over his shoulder. He tells her he'll be in her care from now on. Completely baffled, she asks what he's talking about. With a smirk, Chio reminds her that she was the one who said she wanted to live with him yesterday. Chio smugly claims her request sounded like she didn't want to be separated from him. Ihan is completely baffled by his twisted logic. Seeing her hesitation, Chio's playful mood vanishes, and he asks if she's kicking him out. She frantically says no, but still blocks the door. His patience gone, he backs her against the wall, demanding she open it. Leaning in close, he asks if she's hiding something dangerous, or worse, another man. Flustered, Ihan stammers that it's nothing like that, worried about what people would think if they were seen. Chio closes the distance, calling Ihan the real dangerous one. He reminds her she's shut him out of her life and her house ever since middle school. He lays on the guilt, saying he waited for her to keep their promise and call him, but she never did. Her coldness, he claims, makes him sad. Finally breaking, Ihan's hands clench into fists as she opens the door. She quietly confesses that she couldn't call him. It wasn't that she didn't want to. Now completely thrown, Chio tells her there's no reason to be sad then. Chio steps inside, his face twisting in disapproval as he surveys the stark white apartment. He asks if this is really it. Ihan defends her home, insisting it's just neat and that she doesn't need much. Unimpressed, Chio points out she was never this minimalist when they were younger. The comment hits home, and Ihan sadly explains that after her family was gone, she threw most of their things away. She quickly brightens up, proudly stating their parents helped her clean up for him, much to his annoyance. Chio dismisses her comment, grumbling that his parents would have nagged them regardless. He then clarifies a major misunderstanding. He never said he was taking a leave of absence from school. Ihan just jumped to that conclusion herself. Completely baffled, she demands to know why he wants to live there. It turns out his parents were worried about her living alone and thought this was the perfect solution, especially since all the decent apartments near campus were taken. Before she can argue, he spots another door, asking if it was her brother's room. Chio enters the late brother's room, impressed by how spotless it is despite being untouched. He spots a gold medal, picking it up and playfully asking if it's real before biting down on it. The sight sends Ihan spiraling into a memory of her brother doing the very same thing. Chio's voice snaps her out of the daze, asking what's on her mind. Flustered, she tells him not to put things in his mouth like a kid. He just laughs it off, saying he was curious, before settling into the desk chair, declaring it a perfect fit. Ihan sighs, thinking her late brother was always a big kid. She turns to Chio, determined to say it one last time. They absolutely cannot live together. She argues it would look strange to anyone who saw them, but Chio just smirks, telling her there's nothing to misunderstand. Frustrated, Ihan insists that she cares, even if he doesn't. They're adults in the same department at school. It would be uncomfortable. Unfazed, Chio leans back, coolly stating he won't be uncomfortable at all before patting her head and telling her not to worry. Chio smirks, placing his hand over hers as he leans back. He coolly states the chances of anyone seeing them as a man and a woman are absolutely zero. Ihan is stunned into silence, but her mind races with a dangerous thought. What if he's wrong? Sensing her hesitation, Chio's expression hardens. He asks what she would do if there was a what if. Then, he delivers a chilling ultimatum. If that line is ever crossed, they should never see each other again. He presses her for an answer, leaving her speechless. Cornered by his ultimatum, Ihan stammers an apology. She tells Chio that even if he's fine with it, she doesn't think she can handle living together. She then proposes a temporary solution, let her stay just until she finds her own place. His intense gaze softens as he agrees. Ihan quickly excuses herself to give him space to settle in. But the second the door closes behind her, she's overwhelmed with instant regret, covering her mouth as she wonders what she has just done. Ihan panics outside the door, thinking she agreed way too easily. But then guilt hits her. If she kicks him out, he has nowhere to go. Trying to calm herself, she decides to stop overthinking it. Chio is practically family, just her late brother's friend. Stealing her nerves, she resolves to act completely normal and help him get settled. She swings the door open with a bright smile, offering to help with his things. But her friendly offer dies on her lips as she walks in on Chio casually taking off his shirt. Ihan swings the door open, ready to act normal and offer her help. But her friendly words die on her lips as she's greeted by the sight of a completely shirtless Chio. Mortified, she stammers an apology for not knocking and spins around to make a quick escape. In her panicked rush, she loses her footing and stumbles. Before she can fall, Chio moves in a flash, catching her and pulling her flesh against his bare chest. Trapped in his arms, he coolly asks what she wanted, leaving her a blushing, speechless mess. Still trapped in his arms, Ihan stammers an apology and asks why he isn't wearing a shirt. Chio coolly retorts that she's the one who barged in without knocking. He explains the house was cold, which only makes Ihan feel guilty since she rarely uses the heater. Chio tells her it's not a big deal since they grew up seeing each other at the beach. But as he pulls on a fresh shirt, Ihan can't shake the thought that things are different now. He catches her expression and confronts her, demanding to know what she meant. Cornered by his intense stare, Ihan struggles to explain herself. She stammers that she meant their bodies are different now, awkwardly confessing she's never really seen a man's physique up close before. Her words hang in the air, and Chio's expression darkens. He leans in, demanding to know what she just said. Realizing she's made things a million times worse, Ihan panics. She grabs a blanket, blurting out that she'll get him a fresh one. Using laundry as an excuse, she makes a desperate escape from the tension-filled room. Ihan slams the door and flees, mortified by her own words. Back in the room, the tense silence is shattered by Chio bursting into laughter. He can't stop chuckling, thinking to himself that she's always been this clumsy and awkward. He pulls on his shirt, fondly calling her his little sister. Meanwhile, Ihan tries to calm down by starting the laundry. Suddenly, she hears a grunt of effort behind her. She whips around to find Chio hauling a heavy mattress into the living room, leaving her completely baffled by his actions. Ihan stares in disbelief as Chio hauls a whole sofa into the house. She recognizes it from his parents' place and asks why he's moving in furniture when his stay is temporary. Chio casually explains his mom said he could take whatever he needed. He warns Ihan not to help, claiming it would be a hassle if she got hurt. He then smirks, adding that he needs to work up a sweat to sleep well tonight. His words leave Ihan flustered as he settles the TV, making the place feel more and more like his home. Ihan's heart thumps as she stares at the new furniture. She starts worrying about dust piling up and plants needing water. For her, filling a home is just a painful reminder that one day, she'll lose it all again. She believes it's easier to keep life empty, with nothing to miss and no memories to haunt her. Slipping away, she quietly closes her door. The faint click catches Chio's attention, leaving him puzzled. Alone in her room, Ihan sighs, trying to reason that it's only natural for him to want to be comfortable. Alone in her room, Ihan tosses in bed, calling herself an idiot for getting so worked up over a few pieces of furniture. This was the exact reason she never wanted to live with him. She didn't want him to see her like this. Her mind drifts to a childhood memory of being sick. Her mom had to leave for her brother's competition, making a young Ihan feel forgotten. She tearfully accused her mother of loving her brother more, but her mom promised she was just as precious and would bring back anything she wanted. As a small act of spite, Ihan demanded cake from a shop downtown. In the flashback, Ihan's mom was surprised by the sudden request for cake. But young Ihan, desperate for attention, declared it a special day. Her brother would win his gold medal, and she would get better. Her mom smiled, and they sealed it with a pinky promise. Back in the present, the memory torments Ihan in her sleep. She wakes up, knowing she's had that dream again. In her mind, the day had started perfectly. Her brother won, and her mom kept her promise. But it ended in tragedy. A horrific car crash, the promised cake ruined amongst the wreckage. Overwhelmed by guilt, Ihan believes her childish spite is what took her family away. If only she hadn't asked for that cake, maybe they'd still be with her. She feels that being happy in this new home would be a betrayal to their memory. Waking up, she's startled to see how much time has passed. Worrying that Chio must have cleaned everything alone, she gets up to apologize. But when she steps out of her room, she's stunned. The apartment is perfectly clean, and he even changed the bedding. She stares, wondering when he did it all. Figuring Chio must be out, Ihan decides to get some fresh air on the rooftop. The cold night air wakes her up, but her thoughts turn heavy. The memorial for her mother and brother is coming up soon. As she looks down at the street below, a flicker of movement catches her attention. Her heart stops. She sees a figure walking away, and for a second, she thinks her mind is playing tricks. But the resemblance is undeniable. The person on the street looked exactly like her late brother, Lee Jun. Ihan often pictures what her late brother, Lee Jun, would be like if he were still alive. She imagines him taller, with the same smiling eyes, maybe even a successful judo athlete. But these were just fantasies. Suddenly, the man from her imagination is standing right in front of her, real as can be. Her heart hammers in her chest. She desperately tells herself to get a grip, blaming the upcoming anniversary for messing with her head. As she hopes for the vision to disappear, the figure raises a hand toward her. Her feet pound against the pavement. Even as she runs, a part of Ihan knows this is crazy, a delusion brought on by grief. But she can't stop. She just needs to check one more time. Meanwhile, the figure she's chasing is none other than Chio. He mutters to himself about how she always makes him worry. He'd gone out into the cold just to get her something warm, hoping it would make her feel better. He smiles, knowing she'll probably eat it all, no matter what she says. Chio walks, a wave of guilt washing over him. He realizes he was thoughtless to upset Ihan, especially with the anniversary so close. He decides he'll comfort her when he gets home. Suddenly, he stops dead in his tracks. Ihan is running down the street right toward him. A small smile plays on his lips as he wonders if she came looking for him. But as she gets closer, he sees she's barely dressed for the cold. Just as he's about to call out, she blows right past him, lost in a daze. Confused, he spins around and grabs her arm, shouting her name. Chio grabs Ihan, his voice sharp with worry as he asks what happened. He tries to check her face for any injuries, but she pushes his hand away, her eyes searching wildly. She desperately asks if he saw a man pass by. Chio's expression hardens. He demands to know who she was chasing, promising to take her right to him. With a broken voice, she whispers her late brother's name, Lee Jun. All the tension drains from Chio's face. He simply says that he knows. Ihan finally breaks, collapsing against his chest, admitting she just wanted one last look. Chio holds Ihan as she weeps, his heart aching. He knows she's clinging to him, but her mind is lost in a memory of her brother. He wonders how close he's truly allowed to be. Breaking the silence, he tells her it's not foolish to be unable to forget someone. He kneels, offering to search alongside her, but warns her not to get lost in her grief. Chio says it plainly. Her brother, Lee Jun, isn't someone she needs to find, but someone she must finally learn to let go of. A street lamp flickers on as Chio kneels, gently placing his own shoes on Ihan's bare feet. They're big and awkward, but the familiar gesture makes her feel less shaken. She quietly thanks him. Taking her hand, Chio softly tells her it's time to go home. As they walk hand in hand, Ihan wonders if he's afraid she'll run off again. She breaks the silence, asking where he was going earlier. He smirks, amused she's only just now asking. Then, a sudden realization hits him, making him stop in his tracks. Chio pulls out a crushed, fish-shaped pastry, explaining he shoved it in his pocket in his haste. He recalls how she used to wait all year for one as a kid, figuring they mean nothing now. He tells her to toss it, promising a fresh one tomorrow, but she takes a bite instead. The pastry is still warm. With a deep blush, Ihan says she's so glad they're like family. Then, she looks him in the eye and confesses she likes him so much. Chio's expression freezes as he dismisses her words, thinking she's just being silly. And so, their new life together began. Ihan quickly hit her first reality check, a completely empty refrigerator. Since she rarely ate at home, it never occurred to her to buy groceries. Her brilliant solution? A pantry stocked with a glorious mountain of instant ramen. But as she proudly presented their breakfast options, Chio immediately called his mom, ready to snitch about Ihan's diet. Panicked, Ihan grabbed him, but he calmly told her to relax. He'd just ordered delivery for now, leaving her both embarrassed and relieved. A delivery driver pulls up on his scooter, checking his reflection. He remembers his first delivery to this house, and the girl who answered the door, Ihan. He's been counting the days until he could come back. Thinking she lives alone, he starts to worry, convinced it's dangerous for a woman by herself. What if some weirdo bothers her? He rings the doorbell, ready to be her knight in shining armor. But the person who opens the door isn't Ihan. It's Chio, who greets the stun delivery guy with a cool, casual hello. Chio coolly asks the stun delivery guy if something is wrong. Flustered, the guy stammers that he thought a woman lived here alone, wondering if he was mistaken. Just then, Ihan appears in the hallway, asking what the holdup is. Seeing her, the delivery guy's face lights up, but his relief is cut short. Chio slams a hand against the wall right beside the guy's head, blocking his view. With an intense glare, Chio clarifies that he's wrong. This isn't a house where she lives alone anymore. Later, while taking out the trash, Chio suddenly asked Ihan if she had been ordering delivery often. Completely baffled, Ihan turned from the dishes and denied it, saying maybe once a month at most. She questioned his sudden interest, wondering if something had happened earlier. A smirk played on Chio's lips as he reminded her that she doesn't live alone anymore. He flashed back to the delivery guy's nervous excuse about just making small talk, claiming it's dangerous for a woman alone. The memory alone was enough to make Chio's fist clench. Chio tells the delivery guy that yes, it can be dangerous when strangers act overly familiar. With a tight smile, he thanks the man for his concern before firmly shutting the door. The delivery guy retreats, totally defeated. Inside, Chio leans against the door, letting out a frustrated sigh as he crumples the receipt. He assures a concerned Ihan that nothing happened and that she worried him for nothing. He then turns to her, his expression serious, and declares that from now on, things are going to be different. Staring at Chio's intense expression, Ihan just assumes he must be really hungry. He suddenly declares that from now on, she can't order delivery when she's alone. Totally confused by the new rule, Ihan asks for a reason. Chio just grumbles about the high cost before making a quick escape to the restroom. As Ihan reaches for the food, she freezes in horror. It suddenly dawns on her that she forgot to put on a bra. Clutching her thick pajamas, she desperately tells herself there's no way he could have noticed. Chio tries to wash away the morning's awkwardness with a cold shower, resolving to be more careful. Later, he refuses to make eye contact as Ihan thanks him for the meal. When she offers to clean, he snatches the containers from her, insisting he'll do it himself. He makes up a lame excuse about feeling bloated and needing to move around. Totally confused by his weird behavior, Ihan begins to clear the table. Her eyes go wide when she spots the receipt and sees the shockingly high price of their meal. Staring at the price, Ihan realizes this one meal is just the beginning. Living together means all the bills are about to double. The guilt hits her hard, especially since Chio's mom already paid her massive university tuition. As she stresses over money, her phone suddenly buzzes. It's her auntie. Ihan's face lights up as she answers, happily reporting that she just had lunch with Chio. But after some small talk, her auntie gets to the point, casually asking if anything happened with Chio the night before. Flashing back to the tense moment with Chio the night before, Ihan panics. She frantically insists to her aunt that absolutely nothing happened. Her aunt isn't convinced, pointing out the suspicious shake in her voice. After some sweet words, her aunt reveals the real reason for the call. She sent an allowance. Ihan checks her phone, her jaw dropping at the massive 1.5 million won deposit. Her aunt explains it's for the extra living expenses and orders her not to argue, promising to send more before ending the call with a loving goodbye. Feeling the weight of her aunt's generosity, Ihan sits at her desk, calculating her finances. The guilt of being indebted is suffocating, and she makes a firm decision. She needs to find a part-time job. Meanwhile, Chio steps out of the bathroom, fresh from his shower. He can't get over how she was living with nearly empty toiletries, yet acted like everything was perfectly fine. He decides they need to go grocery shopping, but his thoughts are cut short as Ihan suddenly bursts out the door, shouting that she's going to be late. As Ihan dashes for the door, Chio steps in her way, asking where she's headed. With a hair tie in her mouth, she brightly announces she's going to a part-time job interview. But in her haste, the tie snaps, and she awkwardly drops to the floor to find it right at his feet. Confused, Chio questions her sudden need for a job, reminding her that his mom just sent money. Hiding her guilt, Ihan flashes a determined smile, insisting she just wants to earn her own allowance. Chio looks down at her, a soft, unreadable expression on his face. Chio softly tells Ihan to turn around. Before she can protest, he gently guides her head and tells her to hold still. He begins gathering her long, dark hair, and the familiar gesture sends Ihan back in time. She remembers it was always him who tied her hair as a kid, and she secretly loved it. But his hands feel different now, bigger, colder, and strangely unfamiliar. The awkward closeness makes her wonder if he just misses the little girl she once was. Meanwhile, Chio notices her shampoo scent hasn't changed, questioning if she even realizes what's happening. But as Chio's hands work through her hair, his thoughts take a sharp turn. It's not just her hair he wants to hold. Ihan nervously asks if he's finished, but instead of letting go, he pulls her closer. His hand rests on her shoulder as he leans in, his voice low as he asks her to stay. Ihan freezes, completely thrown off. His voice, his intense expression, everything feels strange today. Overwhelmed, she wonders if she's just being overly sensitive. After all, it's only been one day since they started living together. Chio's question hangs in the air. Can't she just not go? Ihan is completely thrown. He leans in closer, his voice low and serious, promising to tell her why if she agrees to stay. His playful demeanor is gone, replaced by an intensity that makes him feel like a stranger. The line between them blurs, leaving Ihan speechless. Trying to justify leaving, she stammers that she bought a new outfit for the interview. She spent a lot on it, she explains, so she feels she has to at least show up. The intense atmosphere shatters as Chio suddenly gives up, burying his face in her shoulder and playfully telling her to go. Completely confused, Ihan asks what he was even trying to say. Chio smirks, claiming he was just bored and wanted her pity. Relieved, Ihan thinks she got worked up for nothing, but he adds that for a second, she actually made him hesitate. Flustered, she grabs her coat and rushes out, promising to text. As the door clicks shut, Chio's playful mask drops, leaving him with a cold, unreadable expression. Chio stands frozen, a small smile on his face as he wonders how she can just leave after smiling at him like that. Meanwhile, Ihan arrives for her first interview, a nervous wreck. She tries to calm herself, pushing past her anxiety to enter the cafe. But a few days later, she's completely dejected. Every interview was a bust. One place wanted a license, another doubted her stamina, and some just gave lame excuses. Ihan realizes with a sigh that finding a job is a lot harder than the ads made it seem. Ihan's phone buzzes. It's Chio. He immediately starts teasing her, asking how the interview went and telling her to just give up and come home because he's bored. Annoyed, Ihan insists she'll get a job this time. She's just been unlucky. But then his tone completely changes. He tells her not to stress and to take her time since school is starting soon. He reminds her she barely had fun in high school and offers to cover more expenses so she can start college worry-free. Ihan is left totally speechless by his sudden kindness. Ihan flashes a grateful smile, thanking Chio for his support before heading out. But her simple words leave Chio feeling uneasy. He stares at his phone, thinking her gratitude felt like she was pushing him away. He realizes there's a wall between them he can't seem to break. Meanwhile, Ihan is lost in her own worries, afraid that if she lets go of what she's holding onto, her world will fall apart. Suddenly, she snapped back to reality when a friendly voice calls her name, inviting her to karaoke. Ihan awkwardly apologizes to her friends, declining their karaoke invite. As they leave, they wonder what's really going on with her. Alone again, Ihan clenches her fist, reminding herself that her role is to live a good life so Chio never has to worry. This isn't forced on her, it's her own choice. Suddenly, her phone buzzes. It's not Chio, but a notification for her interview. The location has been changed. She quickly finds the new address, takes a deep breath, and pushes the door open to greet the interviewer. Ihan enters the office and is met by a seriously intimidating bald man. She nervously explains she's there for an interview. Suddenly, another man approaches, introducing himself as the manager in charge. He seems much nicer, and Ihan feels a bit of relief. But as he leads her down a narrow, strange hallway that looks like a cheap boarding house, her unease returns. He opens a door, revealing a bedroom. The manager just smiles, explaining their main location is under construction, and they have to use this room for now. Yeah, something here is definitely not right. The manager gestures to the bed, telling her that's where she should sit. Ihan's instincts scream that this is all wrong, but she sits down anyway. The interview begins, and the man's casual tone slowly puts her at ease. He asks if working weekends is okay, and she confirms, explaining she doesn't have many friends. He makes an unsettling comment about her being perfect for charming the regulars, and then offers her the job. Overjoyed, Ihan accepts, but his questions turn personal, asking how she pays for her expensive university without parents. The manager quickly apologizes for his prying question, but his tone turns oily as he pitches a better job, one he claims he doesn't offer to just anyone. He describes the role, simply keeping customers company and pouring a few drinks. It pays well, and lots of students do it, he insists. The disgusting implication finally clicks. Ihan shoots up from the bed, stating she'll pretend this conversation never happened. As she turns to leave, the man callously remarks that everyone feels weird at first, but they eventually get used to it. The manager calls her special, a predator eyeing his prey. Ihan is frozen with fear. She realizes the true terror isn't that he figured out her situation, but how easily people cross the line when they know she's alone. As his hand lands on her shoulder, she feels utterly defeated. Suddenly, the door bursts open with a loud thud. Han Chio stands in the doorway, his face a mask of pure rage. Breathing heavily, his eyes lock onto the manager. He snarls a deadly warning, telling the man not to dare touch her. Ihan's mind flashes back. Han Chio wasn't always like a brother to her. He was simply her late brother's friend from next door, and their relationship was distant. But one day, that all changed. The memory is as vivid as the terrifying present. As the manager's hand rests on her shoulder, Chio's eyes burn with pure rage. He snarls at the man, warning him not to dare touch his sister. In that instant, Ihan feels a protective wall build around her. For the first time since being alone, she feels safe. Chio's mind flashes to a memory of gently tying Ihan's hair, wondering about all the hardships she faced alone. Back in the shady office, his voice is pure ice. He points out the obvious. This isn't an interview, it's a trap. A basement with no signs and no cameras? The manager nervously laughs, dismissing Chio as a worried boyfriend. But then Chio spots it, Ihan's hair tie clutched in the man's hand. He demands to know what's going on. Ihan tries to de-escalate, but Chio's silent, simmering rage is terrifying. Chio's voice is ice, as he warns the manager not to dare use Ihan's name. The man just smirks, calling him a meddlesome boyfriend before launching a twisted psychological attack. He sneers that orphans are dangerous because they cling to anyone out of desperation. He tries to poison Ihan's mind, insisting Chio is only with her out of pity and will eventually abandon her. Pulling her behind him, Chio whips out his phone, bluffing that he's been recording the entire shady conversation. But it's a desperate gambit. He wasn't recording at all. Chio's bluff is a desperate one. His mind is screaming, his hand trembling as he holds the phone. He's terrified his lie will be exposed. But as Ihan watches him, he whispers that she's doing great. In that instant, her fear turns to ice. She steps forward, her voice cutting through the tension. She tells the manager that his twisted words are pathetic. Just because she's alone doesn't make her desperate for anyone's pity. She warns him to think very carefully before he dares to say anything else. The power has officially shifted. Ihan dares the manager to say another word, promising to report him immediately. Later, walking outside, the adrenaline finally fades, and she stumbles from relief. Chio asks if she's okay, and when she says her legs feel weak, he offers a piggyback. He then teases her, saying she seemed different and cool back there. Blushing, Ihan thinks it was all thanks to him, remembering how he whispered his encouragement. She changes the subject, asking how he knew she was in the basement. At home, Chio just groans, complaining she has no idea the trouble he went through. Chio explains he got suspicious when she went radio silent. He'd rushed to the address she gave, but the board game cafe was nowhere to be found. After searching frantically, he returned to the first building. A gut feeling made him check the sketchy basement, where he saw the manager. Ihan asks if the man was still there, sighing in relief when Chio says no. But Chio explodes, scolding her for being careless. Humbled, she grabs his sleeve, admitting his nagging is comforting. This stops him cold. He immediately softens, apologizing for getting loud. Ihan giggles, thanking Chio for caring. But his expression suddenly turns serious. He confronts her, asking why she told that guy she had no family. He calls it heartless, questioning if she thinks he stuck by her for over a decade just to be dismissed so easily. As he warns her what his parents would think, a shocking realization dawns on Ihan. Hiding by the door, she imagines his unspoken thoughts. He has never once considered her family. The truth hits her hard, leaving her completely stunned and breathless. The walk home is dead silent. Days later, the tension between Ihan and Chio is thicker than ever. Flopping onto her bed, she berates herself for her silence. They've been avoiding each other completely, even eating dinner separately. She knows she hurt him and wants to apologize, but she has no idea what to say. Suddenly, her phone buzzes. She's been added to the freshman design group chat. While the others plan a get-together, Ihan freezes. A sudden, critical realization about the proposed date hits her hard. Staring at her phone, Ihan's blood runs cold. The freshman get-together is scheduled for the anniversary of her mother and brother's death. She quickly texts the group, making an excuse that she can't go. Despite this, she ends up at the crowded restaurant. She felt she had to leave the house to avoid making Chio feel uneasy. But the loud chatter triggers a traumatic flashback of the accident. She's jolted back to reality when a classmate, Hong Dian, asks if she's okay. Ihan quickly covers, and the two introduce themselves over drinks. Dian cheerfully suggests they become good friends. Ihan reflects that this is her first time drinking, but figures one shot can't hurt. She clinks glasses with Dian and takes the drink. The next thing she knows, she's in her room, her head spinning. A voice calls her name. Her eyes focus on Chio, leaning over her in the dark. As her confusion peaks, he calmly tells her that she's the one who invited him in. Ihan stares back, completely bewildered and unable to remember a single thing. Rewind 2 hours, and the party is in full swing. Ihan, already feeling the alcohol, realizes drinking isn't the fun escape movies make it out to be. Weighed down by the anniversary of her brother's death, she feels completely out of place. A classmate, Taewon, notices her discomfort and suggests they get some fresh air. It's too loud for her to hear, so he leans in closer. Their friends immediately erupt in teasing, asking if they're the new campus couple. A flustered Ihan quickly denies it, explaining she just couldn't hear him. Taewon leans in, teasing Ihan that she seems a little drunk. Panicked that everyone is getting the wrong idea, Ihan freezes. But before she can say anything, Dian masterfully changes the subject. She excitedly starts gossiping about a legendary handsome senior in their department who's back as a freshman. The guy is apparently so good-looking his picture went viral on campus. Just as Dian remembers his name, the restaurant door slides open. She points across the room. It's him. It's Han Chio, walking right into their party. As Chio's friends note how handsome yet intimidating he is, Ihan goes into full-blown panic mode. She left the house without a word and is certain he'll be furious to find her here. Her only plan is to sneak out and call him, but Dian stops her before she can escape. Ihan stammers that she's just getting some water. She takes a nervous step away, hoping he didn't hear, but it's too late. Chio turns his head, and their eyes lock from across the room. She's completely busted. Ihan's mind goes blank. She scrambles for something to say, hoping he isn't mad. But before she can speak, Chio gives her an ice-cold look and turns his back, walking away to join his friends. He acts like she's a complete stranger. Stunned, Ihan is left speechless. Her friends notice she's gone pale and ask if she's okay. She insists she's fine, but his public rejection is a brutal blow. She tries to justify his behavior, thinking it must be awkward for him, but the fact he ignored her still hurts. Seething, Chio throws back a shot. He fumes that Ihan is just ignoring him after he tried to be considerate of the upcoming death anniversary. He can't believe she's just having fun while he's been worried sick. At his table, his friends call him out for being so gloomy. One of them spills the secret. Chio has been a total shut-in, all because he's overprotective of his little sister. The others are shocked. When asked if she's pretty, Chio's cold gaze drifts across the room, landing squarely on a blushing Ihan. When his friends ask if his sister is pretty, Chio gives a short yeah. Internally, though, he thinks she's absolutely gorgeous. His buddies get rowdy, demanding to see a picture, but he just laughs them off. Ihan watches from her table, seeing him smile and have fun in a way he never does with her. The scene brings back a painful memory. The day Chio admitted he only ever saw her as a responsibility, not as family. She tries to brush it off, telling herself she doesn't even care. Ihan groggily wakes up in her bed to the sight of Chio sitting beside her, his hand gently brushing her hair. She sits up with a start, clutching her pounding head, completely blanking on how she got home. He explains that she got wasted and stumbled out of the bar, scaring him half to death. He had no choice but to carry her all the way back. Mortified, Ihan vaguely recalls being carried and begging him not to leave. Just then, Chio lets out a small laugh, giving her a knowing smirk. Chio tries to postpone the conversation, suggesting they talk when she's sober. But Ihan isn't having it. She grabs his hand and declares she wants to talk now. Before he can protest, she yanks him down onto the bed, wrapping her arms around him. She reminds him they haven't had a real chance to talk lately. Pinned down, Chio agrees, making a mental note to watch her drinking. Ihan then quietly asks if he remembers that day. When he asks which one, she specifies. The first day he ever called her his sister. Ihan's mind drifts back to a rainy week in second grade. She'd been left alone at home for days until a young Chio found her. He tearfully promised to love her more than her own parents and that everything would be okay. Hearing exactly what she needed to, Ihan collapsed from relief. Her memory is hazy after that, only recalling his breathless panting as he carried her through the downpour. She awoke to the smell of medicine in a hospital, where she overheard Chio fiercely telling the adults that she was his sister, begging them to save her. Ihan sheepishly clarifies that she had only fainted from hunger, feeling guilty for worrying him so much back then. After his parents took her in, they fed her until she was stuffed. As she clutches his shirt, she starts to apologize for bringing up the heavy memory. But Chio suddenly pulls her into a tight embrace, cutting her off. He tells her he remembers that day perfectly. It was the day she became his sister. As he holds her close, his thoughts trail off, hinting that for him, it was the day he most. For Chio, calling her his sister was a safety net. It drew a clear line he knew he couldn't cross. But looking at an old family photo, he wonders if he was just a placeholder, believing she would have been fine even if it wasn't him. The next morning, Ihan slowly stirs awake, confused about when she fell asleep. Her eyes snap open in shock. She's not alone. She finds herself tangled up with a sleeping Chio, realizing in horror that she passed out right there in his bed. Ihan's memory of the night before is a total blur. She remembers telling Chio about her past, but mostly recalls the warmth of his hand comforting her until she finally drifted off. Snapping back to the present, she feels a sudden heat and decides she needs to escape before he wakes up to avoid the awkwardness. But as she tries to carefully sneak away, Chio shifts in his sleep, pulling her into a suffocatingly tight embrace. Totally panicked, she wonders if he's sleep-talking. This definitely isn't how normal family members act. As Ihan frets that their position is far too intimate for family, she has no idea that Chio is wide awake. He internally complains that he hasn't slept a wink, all thanks to her. Just as he's about to get his revenge, he feels her hand move from his chest downwards in her sleep. He freezes, completely stunned. A loud thud suddenly echoes through the room as he tumbles right off the bed. The crash jolts Ihan awake, who worriedly asks if he's okay. Flustered, Chio mutters that he gets it, thinking how close of a call that was. After their awkward morning, Chio announces they're heading to the memorial park. Ihan is completely stunned when he leads her to a sleek new car. He explains his dad gave it to him for them to use now that they live together. Inside, He leans across her to fasten her seatbelt, making her blush. He tells her not to feel bad, recalling his father's strict warning to never drive another woman. Reassuring her, Chio declares he'll only ever give her a ride anyway before they finally drive off to their destination. As they drove, Ihan was completely lost in thought over Chio's intense words. He had to call her name to snap her out of it, asking if she slept well. She quickly insisted she did, all while her mind raced. He noted her concern, mentioning she usually struggles to sleep before the anniversary. Chio then pointed out she slept soundly even with him there, unsure if he should be happy about that. His comment made Ihan realize she actually slept better than ever, wondering if his presence was a comfort. The car fell into an awkward silence. The ride to the memorial park is tense, and Ihan feels completely suffocated by the memories. When they arrive, Chio asks if she's cold, but she insists she's fine. As they walk the familiar path, she thinks about how the place never changes, a constant reminder of her mother and brother. It feels like her own longing is stuck here, too. After she greets her family at their resting place, Chio realizes he left the flowers in the car. He tells her to stay put, promising he won't be long while he goes back to get them. Kneeling alone, Ihan quietly apologizes to her family, telling them how much she misses them. Just as she's about to update them on her life, she hears footsteps. Expecting to see Chio, she turns, only to find an older woman standing there. The woman asks if she's been well. Ihan freezes in shock. It's her aunt. Her aunt remarks that time has really flown since they last saw each other. But Ihan's blood runs cold. This isn't a happy reunion. This is the one person in the world who despises her. The aunt's condescending tone slices through the air. She asks how Ihan plans to pay for university, immediately accusing her of leeching off the Han Chio family. A painful memory flashes through Ihan's mind, her aunt screaming at her during the funeral, blaming her for her mother's death. The woman then spits that Ihan is just like her father. That's the final straw. Ihan's voice trembles with rage as she demands her aunt never call that man her father again, declaring she never once thought of him that way herself. The aunt decides to call it a day, warning Ihan she'll be in touch about insurance money before walking off. Just as she leaves, Chio arrives with the flowers. He catches a glimpse of the older woman walking past, a flicker of recognition on his face. He approaches Ihan and apologizes for the wait, explaining he also grabbed some hot packs. Taking her freezing hand, he admits he was worried something had happened to her. Ihan is stunned silent by his warmth. Seeing her shaken expression, Chio realizes something went down and decides to pretend he didn't see a thing. Ihan is incredibly grateful that Chio didn't ask any questions. His quiet consideration is the only reason she's holding it together. But his kindness triggers a painful memory, reminding her of her late brother. She decides to keep this thought to herself, knowing it would only bring them more sorrow. Meanwhile, Lee Jun stands outside a house, ringing the doorbell. A nosy neighbor reveals he saw Chio and Ihan leave together that morning. He asks if something is wrong. Lee Jun's face turns grim as he confirms that it is, declaring there's something he absolutely must do today. It's the first day of the new semester, and Ihan is frozen in front of her closet. She has no idea what to wear. She wants to pick an outfit that will help her make friends, but the pressure is overwhelming. A painful memory surfaces of her parents helping her get ready for a big day, their loving praise echoing in her mind. Whispering that she misses them, she tries to shake off the sadness. Just as she decides to grab whatever, Chio appears from behind, wrapping his arms around her and startling her completely. Han Chio finally entered the room, telling Jong Ihan not to complain since she was the one taking so long. He leaned past her, reaching into the small closet. The sudden closeness made Ihan's face flush. There had always been a strange tension between them, but this felt different. The air grew thick and suffocating. Noticing her unusual silence, Chio stared at her intensely. He suddenly declared that this living situation wouldn't work. Confused, Ihan asked what he meant. He just reminded her of their no complaints agreement as she took in their new, rundown rooftop home. On the way to their first class, Ihan feels totally self-conscious in her simple hoodie. Chio tries to reassure her, saying she looks like a regular college student. He lectures her that being comfortable is what helps you get good grades, not dressing up. Ihan points out that he's the one who's all dressed up. With a smug look, Chio declares that he looks good even in rags, much to her annoyance. He then asks her to get lunch later, but suddenly stops, remembering there's something important he needs to tell her. Chio suddenly stops and drops a bombshell on Ihan. He wants them to pretend to be strangers at school. She's completely taken aback. He argues it would be a problem if anyone found out they were living together, especially since they're in the same major. He points out that she was worried about this from the start. Ihan admits he's right, but now that they're adults, she can't help but worry about what people will think. As she's lost in thought, Chio suddenly pulls her hat down over her eyes, telling her not to worry because he'll be careful for both of them. Chio tells her to think of it as a fresh start. They're just a senior and a junior in the same major. Left alone, Ihan finds her classroom, determined to rely on herself from now on. Inside, she's immediately spotted by her friend, Hong Dian. After they greet each other, Dian playfully teases her about her simple hoodie and hat. Their professor, Kwon Mairi, then enters and asks Dian if she got home safely from a drinking party the other night. Dian whispers that she was just glad for an excuse to leave. After Professor Mairi takes attendance, a new professor named Kim Song-hyun introduces the first-year design course. As he outlines the semester, Ihan vows to study hard and get a scholarship. During a lecture, Dian slides her a note asking if she went to Yuhan Middle School. It turns out they were schoolmates, though they don't remember each other. Ihan feels happy about this new connection, but her good mood vanishes when Dian suddenly hesitates. She admits that wasn't the real reason she asked, leaving Ihan completely puzzled by her mysterious tone. Dian admits she's heard a little about Ihan's difficult past. She offers to be a friend Ihan can rely on if college ever gets overwhelming. Ihan is completely taken aback by the sudden kindness, her eyes welling up as she agrees. Meanwhile, Professor Song-hyun notices Professor Mairi staring off into the distance. He asks what's been bothering her, but she quickly dismisses his concern. He presses, wondering aloud why she's been so distracted lately as they stand near the school gymnasium. At the gym, Professor Song-hyun asks Lee Jun about another student's progress, but quickly notices something is off. Lee Jun apologizes for his distraction, confessing he still hasn't found a place to live. Shocked, the professor asks where he'll stay during the break. Lee Jun's answer? A sauna. Lee Jun's thoughts drift to his financial reality. The monthly allowance he gets after leaving the orphanage is nowhere near enough for a room in Seoul. He remembers finding a decent rooftop apartment, but he was in such a rush that he forgot to call the landlord first. Lee Jun decides he's had enough and texts the landlord about the rooftop apartment. In a surprising twist, the owner says their son also attends Korea University and lives next door. They ask Lee Jun to contact him directly to arrange a viewing and send his number. Meanwhile, at school, Ihan's group spots Han Chio. He thinks back to their pact to act like strangers, finding Ihan's flustered reaction amusing but also a little hurtful. His thoughts are interrupted by a text from his mom, nagging him to look after the shy Ihan. Han Chio scoffs at his mom's message, thinking she only texts him with favors. She's asking him to show their old rental house to potential tenants since he has the key. He sighs, knowing Ihan will be upset if someone else moves in. A second text pops up. A Korea University student wants to see the place, and his mom already gave them his number. Just then, his phone rings with an unknown caller. Realizing it must be the student, Chio answers the call. On the other end of the line, Lee Jun says hello. Han Chio answers the call from the unknown number. On the other end, Lee Jun introduces himself, asking to see the rooftop apartment. Caught off guard by the guy's strangely deep voice, Chio asks when he'd like to see it. Lee Jun's request to come that very evening surprises him. Thinking the guy is in a rush, Chio tries to warn him about the downsides of rooftop living. But Lee Jun is unfazed, mysteriously saying it's better than a bathhouse. Utterly confused by the random comment, Chio agrees to meet him later that evening. Chio is taken aback by Lee Jun's sudden apology. The offer of help triggered a painful memory for Lee Jun, who recalls being called a nuisance for having no parents. He insists he doesn't want to be a bother, confusing Chio with his abrupt change in tone. As Chio tries to reassure him, someone from the judo club suddenly yells for Lee Jun to hang up. Rushed, Lee Jun says he'll see the place in 3 days and ends the call. Left holding his phone, a suspicious Chio mutters about judo, wondering if he should have lied. In class, Jong Ihan can't focus. Her friend, Hong Dian, slips her a kind note, saying she knows about her situation and offering to help with anything. Ihan scribbles a quick thank you, but the gesture sends her spiraling. She feels embarrassed and pitiful, wondering if everyone sees her as a burden. She tries to shake it off, deciding she's the one overthinking and tying her own heart in knots. Just as class ends, a cheerful Dian yawns and invites her to lunch, completely oblivious to Ihan's internal meltdown. As they head out, Dian is joined by another friend, Jeong. After a quick introduction, Jeong suggests they all grab lunch at the cafeteria. Ihan politely declines, saying she isn't hungry and that they should go ahead. Misunderstanding her hesitation for shyness, Dian insists she come along so she isn't left alone. The well-meaning words trigger a painful memory for Ihan, reminding her how pity eventually fades and people leave. Pushing the thought aside, she forces a smile and agrees to join them, much to Jeong's amusement. The awkward lunch leaves Ihan feeling sick with regret. As her friends chat about the food, her eyes land on a banner for the university's judo club. Dian notices her staring and asks what's up. Ihan brings up the club, and Dian points out their star athlete, Seo Yoojin. But when Dian asks why she's suddenly so interested, Ihan quietly reveals her late brother used to do judo. Dian's innocent follow-up question sends a jolt of panic through Ihan. She said too much and desperately needs to change the subject, now. Desperately trying to change the subject, Jong Ihan spots a familiar face and calls out, "Chio oppa." The moment the informal name leaves her lips, she panics. Her friends immediately ask if she's close with the popular senior. Flustered, Ihan starts mumbling a clumsy excuse about a party. Just as she's about to apologize, Chio steps forward and gently touches the brim of her hat, cutting her off. He smirks, saying he remembers her now, but asks for her name again. After she answers, he gives her hat a playful push and walks off. Just as Ihan breathes a sigh of relief, Jiyong invites Chio to grab coffee with them. Ihan quickly tries to make an excuse, suggesting he's too busy, but Chio smoothly agrees to join and even offers to pay. Later, he hands Ihan a pink, non-caffeinated drink. When her friends ask why she didn't get coffee, Chio casually mentions that Ihan can't handle caffeine. Everyone freezes. Ihan is completely stunned as her friends ask the one question on everyone's mind. How did he know that? With everyone staring, Chio leans in close to Ihan, annoyed by the interrogation. He smoothly explains they just happened to be going the same way one day, and that's how they got close. He asks her to confirm, putting her on the spot. Internally, he's panicking. This situation is getting dangerous, and he silently begs her to fix her shocked expression before their friends catch on. But it's too late. Her friends notice she's completely frozen and ask what's wrong, forcing Chio to quickly flash a charming smile to deflect the new wave of questions. Chio quickly cooks up a lie, telling their friends he was just pointing out something on Ihan's face. He plays it off perfectly, but Ihan is a blushing mess. She pulls her hat down, completely flustered by his nonchalant save. Annoyed, she walks away from the group, relieved to finally be alone. She glances back, wondering how Chio can be so ridiculously calm and smooth. It feels like she's the only one losing her mind, and that just makes him even more irritating to her. As Ihan wanders through the chaotic campus club fair, she internally scoffs at the various groups trying to recruit new members. She briefly considers joining one, debating between learning an instrument and doing something to boost her resume. Her thoughts are cut short when someone from the judo club tries to get her attention. She politely refuses and turns to leave, but bumps right into someone else. A student wearing a giant mascot head silently offers her a flyer. Suddenly, a deep voice asks if she's interested, and Ihan looks up, captivated. The deep voice belongs to a student in a giant mascot head, handing her a flyer for the judo club. Ihan politely declines, but finds herself captivated by his tall, athletic build. She thinks the uniform looks incredible on him, which unexpectedly triggers a painful memory of her late brother, Lee Jun. She imagines he would have looked just as good. Shaking off the sad thought, she's startled when the student suddenly removes the mascot head. He looks down at her with concern, asking if she's okay, and Ihan is left completely stunned. Ihan's heart hammers against her ribs as the familiar, suffocating panic returns. A dark vision floods her mind, her late brother, his face cold and accusing. His voice echoes in her head, blaming her for his death and asking if she really thought she deserved to be happy. Snapping back to reality, she sees the judo student reaching toward her, his face etched with concern. But in her terror-stricken state, his gesture feels like a threat. She violently smacks his hand away, screaming for him to stop, leaving him completely stunned by her reaction. Ihan snaps back to reality, horrified by her outburst as other students begin to stare. Mortified, she quickly stammers an apology to CO Yujin, brushing it off by saying she was just lost in thought. Without giving him a chance to respond, she says a hasty goodbye and practically runs away. Yujin's friend asks what just happened. Silently putting the mascot head back on, Yujin quietly takes the blame. He concludes that he must have done something to make her so uncomfortable, leaving him completely bewildered by the intense reaction. As Ihan flees, her mind turns into a war zone. An insidious voice whispers that her family died because of her. She frantically tries to push it away, telling herself it was an accident and she was powerless to stop it. But the memory of a stranger's hateful accusation screams back at her. The denial shatters. Ihan finally admits the truth she's been running from for years. She believes that if she hadn't been so selfish that tragic day, her mother and her brother, Lee Jun, would still be alive. A shattered image of her family tortures Ihan's mind. The happy memory is now a symbol of her guilt. She breaks down, convinced she's the one who caused their deaths. Back at their apartment, Han Chio's worry grows as his texts go unanswered. He tries to dismiss it as her just being a new college student out with friends. But his annoyance fades, replaced by a painful memory. He remembers trying to hide her tear-stained face with a hat, realizing now what a foolishly simple solution it was for such a deep-rooted pain. Han Chio's patience finally snaps. He can't remember a time he's ever been unable to reach Ihan like this. Deciding he's waited long enough, he gets up to go look for her. Just then, the front door clicks open. It's Ihan. He immediately confronts her, asking why she's so late. Putting on a painfully fake smile, she apologizes and says she was with classmates. He tells her she should have called. She meekly agrees and escapes to her room, leaving a suspicious Chio in her wake. He knows something is seriously wrong. Ihan tries to act normal, tidying up the shoes at the entrance while cheerfully saying a clean entryway brings good fortune. But Chio isn't buying it. He calls her name, demanding to know if something happened. She denies it with a weak smile. He decides to let it go, figuring she's just tired from her first day. Just as he walks away, the apartment is plunged into darkness. A smirk appears on his face. Knowing Ihan is probably startled, he decides he has the perfect excuse to check on her now. Chio stands before Ihan's door, but an eerie silence hangs in the air. He wonders why it's so quiet, and a sharp memory hits him of another dark day just like this. He reaches for the knob, determined to check on her, but her voice cuts through the door, stopping him. She softly pleads to be left alone for now. Ihan leans against the wood, thinking this is exactly why she dreaded living with him. Alone, she can endure, but with him so close, she can't hide anything. Chio understands, telling her he knows this silence is her way. Chio knows her true fear isn't the dark, it's that no one will ever come for her. Deciding he won't let her be alone, he opens the door. He finds Ihan in tears and gently cups her face, asking what happened. She doubts he would believe her, but he firmly asks if he needs a reason to trust her. Ihan finally breaks down, confessing she had a horrifying vision. She saw her late brother, who coldly accused her of being responsible for his and their mother's tragic deaths. It's useless to pretend she's okay. Ihan completely breaks down, confessing that she believes her mom and brother died because of her. Overwhelmed with guilt, she wishes she had been in that car too, crying that she doesn't deserve to be okay. Hearing this, something in Chio snaps. He grabs her wrist, commanding her to breathe and look at him. When she refuses, he takes drastic measures to shock her out of her grief, pulling her into a sudden kiss. He pulls back just enough to ask a single, piercing question. Does he look like her brother to her now? Chio pulls back, his face inches from hers. He drills her with a single, brutal question. Does he look like her brother to her now? Ihan is completely frozen, her mind blank. She can only register that something warm just touched her lips. It's the first time she has ever been this close to anyone, and the feeling is overwhelming. She can't think straight. Her heart pounds so violently in her chest that she's terrified he can hear it, forcing herself to hold her breath, scared to make a sound. Chio tells Ihan to think of what he's about to do as mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, warning her not to blame him for it later. Before she can even ask what he means, he leans forward and pulls her into a firm kiss. Completely stunned, Ihan shoves him back, her hand flying to her lips as she asks what he thinks he's doing. Chio just touches his own lip, calmly observing that his drastic method worked. After all that, Jong Ihan was finally breathing properly again. As the lights flicker back on, Ihan is a total mess, demanding to know what just happened. She's too flustered to even say the word kiss. Chio, cool as ever, calls her out directly, asking if she's talking about their kiss. Mortified, she calls him brazen, but he shuts that down fast. He tells her that before anything else, she has to answer his question. Staring her down, he asks again who he looks like to her right now. Unable to meet his intense gaze, Ihan looks away and admits he looks like her brother. Chio smirks, telling Ihan she's looking at him funny. He brushes off the kiss, claiming it was just mouth-to-mouth and that she shouldn't make a big deal of it. But his real reason was far more desperate. He couldn't just stand by and watch her fall apart, wishing she had died with her brother. He felt he had no choice but to do something drastic to bring her back. Looking at his pained expression, Ihan has a stunning realization. She thought she was the only one hurting, but Chio was breaking down right beside her. Ihan quietly apologizes, but Chio tells her that wasn't what he wanted. He suddenly pulls her into a tight embrace, making her promise she'll never say those things again. Buried against his chest, a blushing Ihan agrees. Relieved, Chio promises he won't repeat his actions either, saying her promise is all he needed. He lets go and heads for the door, telling her to rest. But just as he's about to leave, he turns back. He calls her name, starting to warn her what will happen if a day like today ever repeats. But Chio isn't finished. He stops at the door and tells her that if a day like today happens again, she should think of him instead of Lee Jun. A blushing Ihan stammers, asking if she can even do that. Chio smirks, telling her of course she can after all, he's her oppa now, isn't he? With that final shot, the door clicks shut, leaving Ihan frozen. As her heart pounds in her chest, flashes of their past moments together flood her mind. She finally realizes this feeling for him had been growing for a long time. Face burning red, Ihan clutches her hoodie, finally asking herself the one question she's been avoiding. Does she actually like Chio? The next morning, a sleepy Chio goes to wake her for school, only to find her room empty. He spots a note on her desk. She claims she had something to do and left early. A knowing smirk spreads across his face. He knows she just ran away. Later at the university, Lee Jun is surprised to see her. He welcomes her but stops short, sensing that something about her has completely changed. In class, Ihan's friend Dian asks if something happened, and Ihan nearly jumps out of her skin. She quickly denies it, but her beet red face tells a different story. Internally, she's freaking out. She couldn't sleep a wink. Just then, her phone buzzes. It's a text from Chio, asking if she made it to school okay. Staring at his name, she finally has to admit it to herself. She's starting to see him as a man. Meanwhile, Chio smirks at his own phone, knowing she's avoiding his message. Lost in thought, Ihan tries to convince herself her feelings are just an illusion. She remembers their almost kiss, dismissing it to protect her heart. But then, a colder memory surfaces, Chio's words echoing in her mind. He told her the probability of them becoming a couple was absolutely zero. He even warned that if she ever wondered what if, they should stop seeing each other for good. Suddenly, Dian snaps her out of the painful flashback. After teasing her for spacing out, she invites Ihan on a group date, leaving her completely stunned. Despite Ihan's protests about being shy, Dian strong-arms her into coming on the group date. After a moment of thought, Ihan agrees, figuring this might be a good way to get her mind off things. Little does she know, Chio has already tracked her down, checking her schedule to find her exact classroom. He just wanted to see if she was safe, but as he peeks through the door, he overhears everything. A cold look crosses his face. If she's going to run away here too, he decides he'll just have to go catch her. With the group date set, Dian immediately asks Ihan about her ideal type. Ihan freezes, admitting she's never considered it before. Internally, she realizes she's always pushed those thoughts to the back of her mind, so no specific face comes to mind. But just then, a memory of Chio's voice whispering for her to think about me flashes through her thoughts. Her face instantly turns bright red. As her friends tease her for blushing, Ihan panics, questioning why she's suddenly remembering that specific moment. As her friends tease her for being innocent, Ihan nervously claims she's just not interested in dating. But across the table, another student, Seo Yujin, sees right through the act. She smirks, thinking Ihan's lie is obvious and that she can't stand people who fake their purity. Yujin decides they definitely won't get along. Meanwhile, at a local sauna, the runaway athlete Lee Jun gets an earful from one of the regulars. She tells him to stop sleeping on the floor, be grateful for his parents' support, and finally go home. Lee Jun walks down the street, feeling good about his finances. He's glad he secretly worked construction jobs to save up money for training and a new rooftop apartment. He confirms the viewing on his phone. It's the only place within his budget. Just then, a little kid darts into the road, triggering a flashback. Lee Jun remembers seeing Ihan looking distressed with a man in a tiger mask. Snapping back to reality, he yanks the kid out of harm's way just as the boy's mom scolds him. Suddenly, a new voice asks if he's hurt. The kid he just saved bursts into tears at the sight of Lee Jun's face. The mom apologizes, but Lee Jun waves it off, thinking he's used to people reacting that way. He starts to think he might be the problem. But then, his mind flashes back to Ihan. Even though it was their first meeting, her face felt strangely familiar, and he can't figure out why. His thoughts are interrupted by another student, Seo Yujin, cheerfully waving. At that moment, his phone buzzes. Annoyed, he answers, but the unexpected request on the line leaves him completely stunned. In class, the professor drops a bombshell. The midterm is being replaced by a dreaded group project. The news sends Ihan into a total panic, as she absolutely despises group work. Across the room, Seo Yujin's group needs one more person. Yujin scoffs at the idea of picking Ihan, thinking she's too timid and clumsy to be useful. Despite this, her friend Jeong walks over and invites Ihan and Dian to join them anyway. Ihan is baffled by the sudden offer, but Jeong just smiles, confirming she knows exactly what she's doing. Jeong waves off the concern, casually suggesting a 5-person group will be fine. But Ihan panics, thinking she needs to lock down a team now or she'll be left behind. Noticing her distress, Dian tells her to just ask the professor. Before she can, Jeong dismisses it as a hassle, making Ihan feel like a complete burden. Just as Dian offers Ihan a spot in her own group, Han Chio walks up. He cuts through the awkwardness, announcing he already got approval for a 3-person team. Turning to Lee Jun, Chio smiles, saying it works out perfectly. Just as Ihan is left standing there, 2 new students appear. The guy, Oh Hyunji and the woman, Kwanmairi, calmly introduce themselves as her new groupmates. They wave goodbye, leaving a stunned Ihan completely speechless. Walking home alone, Ihan reflects on her situation. She realizes they must have overheard her previous conversation and only invited her out of pity. While grateful, the offer doesn't feel warm. It feels like a cautious, calculated act of charity. The heavy realization makes her stop dead in her tracks, the weight of their pity settling in. Feeling lost and uncertain, Ihan waits at the bus stop. Her phone buzzes, a group chat reminder that feels more like pity than an invitation. She resolves to stop overthinking and get through the day, hoping to finally understand her feelings for Chio. As she tries to take a quick selfie, Chio suddenly appears behind her, photobombing the shot. He leans in with a smirk, asking if she's all dressed up to go somewhere without him. Caught completely off guard, a flustered Ihan barely manages to stammer a greeting. Ihan stammers, asking why Chio is suddenly here. She panics, realizing the vague note she left makes it impossible to admit she's on a group date. Chio grabs her arm, demanding to know where she's going. He leans in close, whispering a taunt about her trying to meet another man after he's saved her life. Seeing a bus, Ihan makes a desperate escape, but he follows her right on board. Trapped, she realizes it isn't even her bus as Chio stands behind her, coolly remarking on all the secrets they have. Trapped on the bus, Ihan's mind races. Chio's intense words echo in her head, bringing back a memory she's desperately tried to forget. This is the exact reason she's been avoiding him. When the next stop is announced, she sees her chance and hits the button, hoping he won't follow her to the meeting. But as she moves to exit with the other passengers, Chio's hand snakes around her waist, holding her in place. He tells her she's not getting off because he's not letting her go. The doors slam shut. As Ihan tries to escape, Chio's arm wraps firmly around her waist, holding her in place. He declares that she's not getting off because he's not letting her go. The bus doors slam shut, trapping her with him. A flustered Ihan asks what he's doing, worried about being late and causing a scene. Chio coolly tells her not to worry, since no one is paying attention. He then drops a bombshell, casually asking what time her group blind date starts. Completely stunned, Ihan demands to know how he knew, and he simply says he overheard it. Chio leans in close, demanding to know why she'd suddenly go on a group date when she's never been interested in guys before. A flustered Ihan stammers that he doesn't need to know. She just has something she needs to figure out. His grip tightens on the bus pole. He questions if this is something only another guy can help her with. He warns her that if she needs a stranger to find her answers, she'll only be confused later. With a final, intense stare, he tells her to just say she's not going. Chio leans in, offering to help her figure things out. Ihan freezes, her face flushing as his familiar scent overwhelms her, the same shampoo they both use. She realizes that running is pointless. Even just breathing is enough to remind her of him. Since she can't push him away, she decides to face her feelings head-on. Looking up at him defiantly, she challenges him, asking exactly how he plans to help. Meanwhile, at the blind date location, her friends get a text. Ihan isn't coming because something important came up. Back at the blind date location, one of Ihan's friends whispers that she's relieved Ihan bailed, since it made their numbers uneven. But her friend Dian tries to text Ihan, hoping she'll still show up. Another friend quickly stops her, insisting they shouldn't make things awkward. Just then, a handsome stranger approaches their table and asks if they're the design students. The girls realize it's the famous athlete, Seo Yujin. While they freak out, he just sighs to himself, wondering what he's even doing there in the first place. On the phone, Seo Yujin looks annoyed as a friend begs him to fill an empty spot on a group blind date. Yujin refuses, listing his excuses, apartment hunting and a work shift he has to cover. Unfazed, his friend offers to pay him for the day and then drops a bombshell. He's already added Yujin to the group chat. Yujin checks his phone and sees the invitation. As he scrolls through the members, he spots a familiar name, Jong Ihan. A picture of her as a child flashes in his mind. He lets out a deep sigh and reluctantly agrees to go, but only this once. Back at the blind date, Yujin confirms Ihan's name, playing it off like he just saw it in the group chat. Secretly, he's thinking about how he wanted to apologize for something that happened between them. Meanwhile, Ihan gets a text from her friend Dian telling her not to worry about canceling. Relieved, she looks around the incredibly fancy restaurant Chio brought her to. Confused by the pricey meal, she asks him why they're here. Chio just smirks, asking if she dislikes the atmosphere. Flustered, she explains she came for his help, not for dinner. Ihan argues they could have done this another time, but Chio hits her with a bombshell. He smirks, saying this fancy dinner is practice for her blind date. A stunned Ihan asks what he means by practice. He explains that since she wanted to go so badly, she should do a trial run with him first, confidently adding that she won't find a better guy anyway. Though she feels tricked, she's somehow convinced. Her heart flutters as she sips her drink, trying to calm down. Noticing her nervousness, Chio tells her to eat before the food gets cold. Ihan realizes she hasn't taken a bite yet. After Chio cuts the steak for her, she thanks him and tries it. She's shocked by how good it is, realizing this is why people love eating out. Chio smirks, enjoying her reaction. Curious, she asks if people their age normally go to such fancy restaurants. He coolly replies that it depends on who you're with. He explains that the calm atmosphere suits her better than a crowded, noisy place. Surprised by his specific reasoning, she wonders how many dates he's been on. Chio admits he's been on dates before, but today is different. Since he's with her, he declares he can't mess it up. Ihan's heart pounds in her chest. She tries to remind herself it's just practice, but hearing him call her his partner feels totally unfair. He then shifts gears, giving her blind date advice. He explains that if a guy compliments her name, it means he's genuinely interested. Leaning closer, Chio says he's curious about the face she'd make for someone else and asks how she would respond. Ihan fires back, telling Chio she's wanted to see this side of him for a long time. Taking the practice seriously, she musters a bright smile and tells him he's handsome, too. The direct compliment completely shatters Chio's cool demeanor. Confused by his sudden silence, Ihan calls out his name. He quickly covers his mouth, trying to hide a deep blush. He can barely get a word out, realizing he completely underestimated her. Internally, he wonders if he just dug his own grave by pushing her this far. Ihan's simple question sends Chio's mind spiraling into the past. A flashback reveals his long-held secret. He has always protected the space beside her, even knowing he'd have to let her go someday. This fragile piece was the best future he could imagine. But now, her innocent gaze is breaking his control. He internally begs her to stop, thinking she has no idea how dangerous she is at this moment. With her clueless expression, he wonders what kind of psycho wouldn't want her for themselves. Overwhelmed, he covers his face, realizing this feeling is absolutely awful. Chio is hit with a horrifying thought. He's become the very psycho he was worried about. Ihan, meanwhile, shyly admits she likes his praise. He teases her for getting so happy over one compliment, but adds that he wasn't lying. Feeling bold, Ihan looks him in the eye and calls him handsome, too. The statement sends Chio spiraling. He suddenly lunges across the table and covers her mouth, deciding this is a bad idea. He pulls back, warning her that guys don't like such direct compliments. His intense mood swing instantly sobers Ihan up. Still reeling from Chio's intense reaction, Ihan wonders what kind of compliment he actually likes. Before she can dwell on it, he flags down a waiter and orders red wine. Ihan's eyes light up at the suggestion. She's never tried it and eagerly asks for a taste. Chio pauses, a brief memory of her sleeping peacefully flashing through his mind before he agrees with a smirk. But when the drinks arrive, a virgin mojito is placed in front of her. Taking a sip, she asks if this is hers, wondering where the wine went. Chio just laughs at Ihan's pout, reminding her that she was just whining for a drink. He smirks, saying the mood is already set just fine, and takes a slow sip of his wine while staring her down. His intense gaze makes her blush. As she watches his lips touch the glass, a dangerous thought enters her mind. She wonders what he tastes like. Suddenly, Ihan is hit with an unexplainable thirst. Even though she's completely sober, she feels an overwhelming heat, making her want to experience that intoxicating feeling all over again. Noticing her intense gaze, Chio smirks and asks if she wants a sip of his wine. The question snaps Ihan out of her trance. She panics internally, wondering what she was just thinking and calling herself crazy. Flustered, she quickly refuses, insisting her mojito is delicious. Chio is baffled. She was staring so intently a moment ago, but now she won't take it. His expression hardens as he says her name. Stealing her nerves, Ihan seizes the moment to ask a burning question. What is his ideal type? Chio is taken aback by her question, claiming he's never thought about his ideal type. His disinterest is so obvious. One of the girls asks if he's bored. He finally speaks up, but only to ask about Ihan. When he learns she isn't coming, his demeanor shifts. As the group discusses where to go next, Chio suddenly stands. He declares he has an errand to run and makes a swift exit, leaving the others shocked and realizing he was only ever there for Ihan in the first place. Chio is completely thrown by her sudden question about his ideal type. Flustered, Ihan argues it's a standard question for a blind date. As she presses him, her own thoughts begin to spiral. She's been hyper-aware of him for a while now, and a horrifying scenario plays out in her mind. If she confessed her true feelings, he would coldly tell her they should never see each other again. The chilling thought makes her go rigid. Snapping back to reality, Chio finally breaks the silence. He simply states he's never thought about his ideal type. Finding her question boring, Chio flips it around and asks Ihan about her ideal type. Caught off guard, she confirms he's asking her. Internally, Chio feels the pressure, wondering who she could have in mind. But then, he's the one who answers. He admits he's a bit possessive, wanting someone who can lean on him and only look at him. His finger gently brushes against hers as he continues, saying he wants someone who accepts the things he does for her. Looking directly at Ihan, he adds his final requirement: a pretty woman. Ihan's heart sinks, convinced she could never be the girl he just described. As they walk home, she thanks him for the expensive dinner. Noticing it's still cold, Chio slips a warm hot pack into her hand. He asks if she figured out what she wanted to know, and she quietly confirms she did. The simple gesture makes everything clear. At that moment, Ihan realizes she has completely fallen for him. But instead of joy, the feeling is terrifying, like the start of a tragedy. All she wants is to go home. Chio freezes as Ihan says she wants to go to our home. The word choice makes him smirk. He leans in close, teasing that her request is a bit forward for a second date. A flustered Ihan can only sputter as Chio laughs, adding that as her oppa, he approves. He jokes that he's kidding and grabs her hand to lead the way. But she stops him, suddenly remembering something. She asks if he's had any luck finding a new house yet. Chio's playful expression vanishes, completely caught off guard by her question. Chio's confident smirk completely disappears, a drop of sweat forming on his face. Her question about the house search catches him totally off guard. Ihan immediately remembers his promise that this was only until he found a new place. Their time together has an expiration date. Regaining his composure, Chio forces a smile and tells her not to worry. He assures her he doesn't plan on being a burden for much longer. As the crosswalk light turns green, he quickly ushers them forward, shutting down the uncomfortable conversation. As they walk in silence, Ihan's mind is racing. She's sure he must know what she really meant by her question. And he does. Chio knows she's upset, but he believes there's no other choice. If they are to remain family, they absolutely cannot get any closer. One step would destroy everything they have. Lost in her thoughts, Ihan drops the hand warmer. As she moves to grab it, a car screeches towards her. In a flash, Chio grabs her, pulling her back into a tight, protective embrace just as the car speeds past. Chio holds her tight, his mind racing. He tries so hard to draw a line between them, but he's terrified of being helplessly pulled in. He asks if she's okay. Shaken, Ihan pulls back, insisting she's fine and they should just go. As she steps away, a part of him is relieved. He thinks this is for the best. She needs to keep pushing him away. He knows that if they get any closer, they are bound to completely destroy each other. Chio tells Ihan to go inside without him. He explains that someone is coming to view his rooftop apartment, so he needs to quickly tidy up. The news confirms Ihan's fears. He's actively looking for a new place. He tells her to get some rest and turns to leave. Ihan watches him go, her heart sinking with every step he takes away from her. Suddenly, she calls out for him to wait. He stops and turns back, his friendly demeanor gone. With a chilling intensity, he clarifies that this house, her house, is not for sale. Chio clarifies he's only renting the rooftop apartment out, warning Ihan not to get any weird ideas. A flustered Ihan insists she wasn't, but Chio just smirks and tells her he'll be back. As he walks away, she clutches her chest, completely relieved that he isn't moving out for good. Meanwhile, upstairs in his room, Chio remembers hiding there from her back in high school. He was just a confused kid who didn't understand his own feelings. But now, all alone, he finally admits the simple truth to himself. He likes her. The memory hits him hard. He's back in high school. His then-girlfriend runs up, all smiles, and links her arm with his. She complains they haven't been on many dates since he became a senior and wants to go out. But Chio stops her cold. With a grim expression, he tells her they need to break up. The girl is shocked for a moment, but then a knowing smirk appears on her face. She says it's fine because she always knew he didn't really like her anyway. Chio's ex-girlfriend cuts him deep, saying he only dated her for her looks. He coldly agrees he doesn't like her either and turns to leave. Furious, she screams after him, demanding to know who he really likes. She guesses it's Ihan, the girl he always protects even though they aren't real siblings. Ihan overhears everything, frozen in place. To shut his ex down, Chio stops and cruelly denies it, claiming he could never like someone like her. The memory echoes into the present, leaving him to question his own heart. Chio sits alone, convinced his wandering has finally ended. He thinks back, feeling he greedily took the place of Ihan's late brother without even understanding his own heart. A photo of the two boys serves as a constant reminder, a punishment he can no longer escape. His old anxiety returns, the fear that the place he truly wants might belong to someone else. He's still thinking about the new tenant when the doorbell rings. He opens it, and his world stops. Standing in the doorway is Lee Jun, calmly saying hello. Chio immediately recognizes the low voice from the phone call. The visitor introduces himself as Seo Yujin, the one who came to see the apartment. Chio's blood runs cold. He can't even breathe. He's staring at a ghost. This man is a perfect double for Ihan's late brother. The same black hair, the same jet black eyes. But his voice and his entire vibe feel completely different. It's the same person, yet a total stranger. Before Chio can process this impossible sight, Yujin simply walks right past him into the apartment. Chio's mind screams that this is impossible. He knows for a fact that Jong Lee Jun is dead. As if his thoughts caused it, the framed photo of him and Lee Jun crashes to the floor, the glass shattering. The stranger's voice cuts through the haze, asking if he's okay. But Chio can only stare at the man who wears his dead best friend's face. Barely finding his voice, Chio looks him dead in the eye and demands to know who he really is, standing in his home like a ghost from the past. As Chio stares at the man wearing his dead friend's face, his mind flashes back. He remembers overhearing Ihan's father bragging about young Lee Jun, a third-grade prodigy already praised for his incredible talent and focus. People were already calling him a future national representative. But Chio just remembers being a lonely kid, wishing he could be like that too. He believed that if he were that impressive, maybe his own parents would finally come for him. Snapping back to the present, the stranger smirks, greeting him before casually wrapping an arm around Chio's frozen shoulders. Chio knew it was impossible, but he had to ask. He'd pictured Lee Jun's expressionless face countless times, but seeing it right in front of him shatters every bit of his reason. An indescribable wave of longing rises within him, quickly followed by a much stronger emotion, fear. His hand clenches into a fist. This isn't the horror of seeing a ghost. It's a chilling intuition, a terrifying feeling that everything he has desperately tried to protect is about to come crashing down. He stares at the stranger, demanding an answer. Who is he? The stranger smirks, asking if Chio remembers a player named Jong Lee Jun. He pulls out a photo of them as kids, musing that Lee Jun would have become an incredible athlete if he had lived before offering his condolences. Flustered, Chio apologizes for his earlier outburst, blaming the man's shocking resemblance to his dead friend. The stranger just says he gets that a lot. As Chio stares at the photo, an unsettling emptiness washes over him. This wasn't the answer he was waiting for. Suddenly, the man reaches out and gently touches Chio's face. The stranger, Oh Hyunji, acknowledges that his resemblance to a dead man might be uncomfortable, asking if it will complicate their contract. Chio feels trapped, realizing that in front of this face, any answer he gives will just make him seem like a coward. Elsewhere, Ihan meticulously writes down every expense Chio has covered for her. She feels suffocated by his generosity, wishing she could be helpful for once instead of always being the one receiving. As she notes how late he is, the sound of the front door opening makes her turn around with a smile. Ihan greets Chio, her worry melting away now that he's back. He confirms he's moving in tomorrow, but his tired expression tells her something is wrong. She asks if anything happened. Internally, Chio panics. He can't lie to her, but he's terrified of the truth. If he tells her he met a man who looks exactly like her late brother, he knows she would run out to find him and might never return. The thought that he can never truly keep her here is suffocating. He knows it's childish, but the fear is overwhelming. Desperate to hide the truth, Chio tells Ihan a half-lie. He says that while he was on the rooftop, he saw a ghost. Shocked, she asks him to explain. He tells her it was the spitting image of someone who used to resent him, and the experience was terrifying. Seeing his distress, Ihan gently cups his face, asking if he was really scared. He admits that he was. Later that night, Ihan lies awake, unable to forget the haunted look in his eyes. Elsewhere, a mysterious man smirks, thinking he knows what it's like to see an illusion. Chio jolts awake in bed, his mind still vivid with the memory of Ihan comforting him. He covers his face, embarrassed by his thoughts and trying to convince himself he's not a kid anymore. A soft voice from his doorway asks if he's asleep. Startled, he tells her to come in. Ihan appears, clutching a pillow, and admits she couldn't sleep because she was worried. Chio asks why she brought the pillow. Hiding her face, Ihan looks at him and declares that she's going to stay with him for the night. Chio is completely thrown by her declaration. Ihan clarifies that since he saw a ghost, being alone must be scary. She offers to stay just until he falls asleep. Flustered, Chio realizes she stayed up purely out of concern for him and tries to play it cool, insisting he's fine. Seeing her disappointed face as she turns to leave, he panics. He grabs her wrist, telling her to stay. Giving in, he looks her dead in the eyes and admits that he's scared. A warm smile spreads across Ihan's face as she tells him to move over. Ihan tucks them both under the covers, asking if he feels better. Stiff as a board, Chio awkwardly agrees. Lying next to him, Ihan tries to convince herself this is just her being a good sister, a way to stay by his side. But Chio is internally panicking, wondering how he's supposed to sleep with her staring at him. He pretends to rest, but his tense body betrays him. Noticing this, Ihan grows concerned. Lost in her own confusing feelings, she quietly calls out his name, causing his eyes to snap wide open. Ihan sadly accepts that Chio will never like her romantically. She convinces herself it's okay to be selfish, using her sister role as an excuse to stay close. She softly asks if he's still scared and wants to come closer. But instead of inching over, Chio moves in a flash. He shoots up and looms over her, his intense gaze pinning her to the bed. Completely stunned by a sudden movement, Ihan can only stare up at him, her voice trembling as she calls out his name. The atmosphere in the room shifts in a heartbeat. Chio suddenly looms over Ihan, trapping her with nowhere to go. The heavy air screams danger. Startled, Ihan flinches as his hand grips the bedding beside her head, and she nervously asks why he's acting this way. His voice is hoarse as he says her full name. Leaning in close, he asks what she's thinking right now. He already knows she's confused by her own feelings, and he presses her to guess what the real reason for this tension could possibly be. Chio challenges Ihan, asking why she's so utterly defenseless. Would she let any other guy get this close? Ihan stumbles over her words, trying to rationalize the situation, but she can't find an answer. After a tense silence, she admits she wouldn't. Looking him straight in the eyes, she confesses that it's fine because it's him. It's fine because he's someone she likes. Hearing this, a dangerous smirk creeps onto Chio's face. He realizes she's completely forgotten how to protect herself. Chio's mind races. He became her fence, the only thing she trusts in a world she fears. Her complete faith in him feels like a special privilege, yet the possessive thought makes him feel like a monster. He suddenly decides this won't do. In one swift motion, he scoops a stunned Ihan into his arms. He carries her to her bedroom and tells her to sleep there tonight. Before leaving, he warns her to lock the door and not open it, even if he's the one knocking. The door clicks shut, leaving Ihan utterly confused. Leaning against her bedroom door, Ihan's heart hammers in her chest. Her accidental confession, that she likes him, plays on a loop in her head. She was terrified he'd caught onto her feelings, but he seemed to brush it off so easily. A wave of relief washes over her. But on the other side of that same door, Chio is falling apart. He grips his head in frustration, calling himself a filthy monster. Suddenly, a firm knock makes Ihan jump. A familiar voice calls her name from the hallway. It's Chio. Confused by his return, Ihan opens the door. Without a word, Chio backs her into the room until she tumbles onto the bed. He looms over her, his presence overwhelming. Before she can process what's happening, he leans down and captures her lips in a sudden, demanding kiss. Her mind goes completely blank from the shock. Breathless, she weakly pleads for him to stop. Pulling back just enough to look her in the eye, Chio asks if she finally understands. He was proving a point. She wasn't safe, not even with him. Chio's voice from the dream rings in her ears, reminding her that he told her not to open the door. Ihan jolts awake, her heart pounding and her face on fire. It was just a nightmare, but the feeling lingered. The next morning, the tension between them is suffocating. Chio points out her flushed cheeks, asking if she's sick. Unable to look him in the eye, she blames it on a sleepless night. But Chio is just as tormented. He can't possibly admit that he was haunted by intense dreams of her all night long. Oh, Hyunji deflects a question about who is moving in, smirking that they'll find out soon enough before walking away. His cryptic words leave Ihan feeling uneasy. Later in class, she finds her seat and apologizes to her classmate, Seo Yujin, for her absence the day before. Yujin brushes it off, but then leans in with a strange question. She asks Ihan if she knows the famous athlete from the P department, who also happens to be named Seo Yujin. Ihan is completely baffled, wondering why she's being asked about a national champion. Yujin presses the issue, showing Ihan a picture on her phone. But Ihan just shakes her head, confirming she has no clue who this famous athlete is. Later, as her classmates discuss their long commutes and plans for lunch, Ihan quickly makes an excuse. She tells them she has to go to the library alone to return some books. Her friends watch her leave, overcome with a strange, uneasy feeling. As Ihan walks off, an unknown person in white sneakers begins to approach from the other direction. Ihan rushes off, her mind racing. Staring at the photo of the athlete, she's completely stunned. The resemblance to her late brother is more than just a coincidence. It's like he's come back. A desperate need to see him in person takes over. She finds herself standing outside the athletic judo training room, her heart pounding. She tries to dismiss it as a trick of the camera, a strange similarity. But despite her doubts, her feet are planted, unable to leave. She has to know for sure. Taking a deep breath, Ihan tells herself to focus and slips into the judo training room. Her mind floods with memories of her late brother, Lee Jun. She'd always wondered what he would look like now, if he'd be taller, if his voice would be the same. A sharp voice suddenly cuts through her thoughts, and a young man confronts her for trespassing. Ihan freezes solid. It's him. The face she's only ever imagined is standing right there. Before she can even process it, he shocks her by asking if she is Jong Ihan. A chaotic memory hits Ihan like a truck. Paramedics rush her brother, Lee Jun, from an ambulance, his condition critical after a devastating traffic accident. A tiny Ihan sprints down the hospital corridor, calling out his name. Reaching him, she's crushed by a terrible guilt, believing it was all her fault over a simple cake. She remembers how her brother never blamed her, how he never even called her by her real name. He always smiled for her, right up until the very end, when he was tragically pronounced gone. A memory of her brother, Jong Lee Jun, flashes through her mind. But the man standing before her snaps her back to the present, asking if she's Jong Ihan. Up close, Ihan realizes the truth. This isn't him. His frame is larger, his eyes are cold, and his voice is completely different. There's no trace of the brother she remembers. Of course, there isn't. The brutal realization hits her. Her brother is gone. Tears stream down her face, and the athlete asks if she's crying. Overcome with grief, Ihan can only apologize. Seo Yujin tells the crying Ihan she has nothing to apologize for. Fumbling for a tissue, he comes up empty-handed. After a moment of hesitation, he awkwardly pats her head, warning her that crying so much will give her a headache. His gentle words trigger a painful memory, echoing something her late brother once said to comfort her. Just as the moment settles, a group of students walks by. They call out to Yujin, completely surprised to see their friend comforting an unknown girl. The spell is broken. As Yujin's friends demand to see the girl he's with, he quickly pulls off his jacket and drapes it over Ihan's head. He coolly tells them she's just a friend. Ignoring their protests, he leans in close to a stunned Ihan, whispering that he'll stick with her a little longer before leading his buddies away. Elsewhere, Han Chio listens to his classmates complain about their schedules. When they ask what he plans to do, Chio looks down at his phone, declaring that he's about to change his classes right now. A girl asks Han Chio to take an elective with her, but he smoothly turns her down. He explains that his schedule needs to match the person he's taking classes with. His friends are baffled, demanding to know who he's ditching them for. The conversation pivots to his living situation, and they start teasing him for being an overprotective, older brother to Ihan. Unfazed, Chio pulls up her schedule, declaring that he is to look out for her. He thinks it's better he keeps an eye on her than letting some weirdo get close. Han Chio's friend calls him out, asking if he isn't being a little overprotective. Suddenly, Chio's expression shifts. Elsewhere, Seo Yujin finds Ihan and asks if she's okay. Mortified, she apologizes for breaking down and running off with his stuff. Yujin, shivering in his t-shirt, tells her if she's truly sorry, she can give his jacket back. As she returns it, she suddenly freezes. A realization hits her, and she looks at him with wide eyes, demanding to know how he knew her name. Cornered, Yujin struggles for an answer. Cornered, Seo Yujin scrambles for an excuse. He awkwardly jokes that her name was written all over her face, but that falls flat. Switching tactics, Yujin comes clean. He reveals he was in the same group blind date chat as her and saw her profile. He smoothly adds that he remembered her name because he found it pretty. Ihan is left speechless, recalling her late brother's words. He once told her if a guy compliments your name when you first meet, he's definitely interested. Ihan is completely thrown off by his compliment, her brother's words ringing in her ears. Before she can process it, Yujin says goodbye and casually walks away. She watches him go, totally baffled. Why didn't he ask anything else? As they both start walking, she realizes they're heading in the same direction. Yujin glances back, a little suspicious. It feels like she's following him. Then it hits him. She was looking for someone. A wild thought crosses his mind. Could that someone have been him? His heart starts to pound. Suddenly, a painful memory surfaces for Yujin. A girl once approached him, using his past at an orphanage as a way to ask him out, saying he must be lonely. He was not having it. Snapping back to the present, he stops and confronts Ihan, bluntly asking why she's following him. Completely flustered, she stammers that it's a huge misunderstanding. She points to the gate right in front of them, awkwardly revealing that this is her house. The awkward silence is deafening as they both realize the crazy coincidence. Yujin apologizes for the mix-up. Ihan brushes it off, explaining she literally just moved in next door. Realizing they're now neighbors, Yujin smirks, saying they'll probably be seeing each other a lot before he leaves. Ihan seems flustered but pleased. Unseen, Han Chio watches the entire exchange, his face hardening with dread. An old fear consumes him. He knows his feelings are complicated, but he can't let her go. He's terrified that if she finds her own place in the world, she'll leave, and he'll be all alone again.